Max Verstappen's words after the Miami Grand Prix have set off alarm bells across the Formula One world. From pole position to a disappointing fourth-place finish, what unfolded on the streets of Miami was not just a bad race, it was a signal. A signal that the once dominant Red Bull might be losing its grip, and more alarmingly, that Verstappen himself might be losing faith. For a driver who has been the face of the team, who has crushed competition for nearly 3 straight seasons, the current situation feels like a complete turnaround. What we're witnessing is not just a dip in form, but a potential fracture between one of the greatest drivers in modern F1 history and the team that helped shape his legacy. Verstappen didn't hold back after the Miami race. He said the car was a struggle, that he couldn't push, that the tires were overheating constantly, and that nothing was working the way it should. These weren't carefully chosen words to protect team morale. These were the words of a frustrated driver, a world champion who feels like he's being let down by his machinery. That kind of raw honesty tells us more than any press release ever could. And then he said something even more telling. If I stop enjoying it, I'll stop. It's not just about a bad day at the office. It's about losing the very reason he races in the first place. Max has always been a no-nonsense competitor. He races to win. He doesn't care about podiums if they aren't the top step. He's not in Formula One to collect points or play political games. He's in it to dominate. And for the past few years, he's done exactly that. Red Bull's cars from 2022 to 2024 were works of art, fast, balanced, and unstoppable. But 2025 has brought a very different story. The RB20, the car that was supposed to continue Red Bull's legacy of dominance, has instead become its weakness. In Miami, Verstappen started on pole. For the first few laps, everything seemed normal. He led the field, looked comfortable, and Red Bull fans had reason to believe this would be another win. But that illusion broke quickly. The car started overheating. The balance was off. Tire degradation set in far too early. And most shockingly, Red Bull had no answer for McLaren's race pace. Oscar Piastri passed Verstappen, then Lando Norris. Even George Russell in the Mercedes overtook him with surprising ease. Max finished fourth, not because of bad luck or strategy, but because on the day 3 other cars were simply faster. That's the part that stings the most. For a team and a driver who built their dominance on raw speed and relentless precision, being outpaced like this is a serious concern. And it's not just Miami. The signs have been there for a while. Red Bull's advantage has been shrinking gradually, and now it seems they've been overtaken. McLaren has surged ahead with upgrades that are working perfectly. Mercedes is improving. With each race, Ferrari is quietly building momentum. Red Bull, meanwhile, looks like they're standing still, or worse, moving backward. What makes this situation more dangerous is the growing internal tension within Red Bull itself. Earlier this year, the team was rocked by a scandal involving Christian Horner. While Horner remains in charge, the fallout created fractures behind the scenes. Max's father, Jos Verstappen, publicly criticized Horner. Helmut Marko, Red Bull's longtime advisor and Max's early supporter, almost left the team. These aren't just tabloid distractions, they're signs of a team in conflict, struggling to stay united when it matters most. And in the middle of it all is Max, trying to keep winning while the foundations beneath him begin to shake. Then there's the car development issue. Red Bull has always prided itself on rapid, effective upgrades. That's how they stayed ahead of the curve. But in 2025, McLaren has been faster with updates, new floors, wings, and diffusers that have transformed their car into a title contender. Red Bull's upgrades, on the other hand, haven't made enough of a difference. Worse, there are whispers of disagreement within the team about the development direction. Verstappen has hinted at this subtly in interviews, saying they need to improve fast, but you can hear the doubt in his voice. It's not just that the car is underperforming, it's that Max may not trust the team to fix it in time. That brings us to perhaps the most important point of all, Verstappen's future. He's under contract with Red Bull until 2028. But in Formula One, contracts are only as strong as the performance behind them. Most top driver contracts include performance clauses. If the team can't provide a competitive car, the driver can walk. And based on how things are going in 2025, It's entirely possible that Verstappen is seriously considering that option. He's already made it clear. He doesn't race for fun, or for fame, or even for money. He races because he enjoys winning, and if Red Bull can't give him that anymore, why would he stay? Mercedes is watching this situation closely. With Lewis Hamilton leaving for Ferrari in 2026, a seat will open up at one of F1's most iconic teams, and team boss Toto Wolff has already said publicly that Verstappen would be welcome. Imagine that. Max in a silver arrow leading a fresh era at Mercedes, possibly alongside Kimi Antonelli. It's not just a fantasy anymore, it's a real possibility. There's also Honda, which will be returning to F1 in full capacity with Aston Martin in 2026. Verstappen has strong ties to Honda, having won all his world titles with their power units. A reunion with the Japanese manufacturer isn't out of the question either, especially if Aston Martin can offer a competitive package and the stability Red Bull now seems to lack. So for the first time in years, Max Verstappen has real alternatives, and he knows it. But let's be clear, this isn't a decision Max will make lightly. He's been with Red Bull his entire F1 career. They gave him his debut. They supported him through his growth. They built him cars that won 3 straight titles. There's history, there's loyalty, but there's also reality. And right now, the reality is that Red Bull is no longer delivering. They're third in the Constructors' Championship. Max is third in the drivers' standings, behind both McLaren drivers. That's not just a setback, it's a wake-up call. Red Bull's legendary engineering, led for years by Adrian Newey, is now under threat as well. Newey is reportedly stepping back from day-to-day involvement, and that alone could spell disaster. His unique touch has defined Red Bull's dominance, and without it, the team might struggle to maintain its technical edge. Combine that with growing internal instability, a lack of upgrade pace, and a car that's lost its identity, and you begin to see why Verstappen might be questioning everything. The RB20 is a tricky machine. Red Bull tried to push the limits, chasing more top speed by reducing drag. But in doing so, they've compromised cornering performance. The car is unstable in slow and mid-speed corners. The tires overheat easily. And in races like Miami, where precision and balance matter more than raw power, that weakness becomes a fatal flaw. Verstappen, who relies on his car to be razor-sharp under braking and through quick transitions, now finds himself having to nurse the car home instead of attacking. Red Bull's simulations, the tools that once gave them such an edge, aren't matching real-world data anymore. The setups look strong on paper, but on track, the car behaves unpredictably. That inconsistency has shattered Verstappen's confidence. He can no longer trust that the car will respond the way it should, which forces him to drive more cautiously, which in turn makes him vulnerable to the very rivals Red Bull used to dominate. And then there's the driver situation. Red Bull doesn't have another driver pushing Verstappen from inside the team. Yuki Tsunoda, who was brought in with hopes of developing into a consistent threat, has yet to close the gap. He's not pushing Max. He's not helping with development feedback at the same level. And in a season this tough, that leaves Verstappen doing all the heavy lifting, all the testing, all the leading, and it's beginning to wear him down. So where does all this lead? To a crossroads. The next few races, Imola, Spain, and Canada, will be critical. These are 3 very different circuits testing different strengths. If Red Bull can turn things around and find performance quickly, maybe the season can be saved. Maybe Verstappen's faith in the team can be restored. But if the slide continues, if McLaren keeps winning and Red Bull keeps struggling, then Verstappen's path forward might lead away from the team he's called home for nearly a decade. Formula One is about winning. That's the truth behind every contract, every press statement, and every race. Max Verstappen is a winner, and right now Red Bull isn't winning, so he has a choice to make. Stay loyal to a team that's faltering, and hope they can recover, or move on and chase a new challenge with a team ready to rise. That's the story of 2025. Not just whether Max can win another title, but whether Red Bull can convince him they're still the team that deserves him. And as we move deeper into the 2025 Formula One season, every race becomes a referendum on Red Bull's ability to hold on to their most prized asset. For all the talk of contracts and long-term commitments, the truth is simple. If Max Verstappen doesn't believe in Red Bull's vision anymore, no contract will keep him. Formula One history is filled with stories of drivers who walked away when the magic disappeared. Ayrton Senna leaving McLaren, Fernando Alonso moving away from Renault, Sebastian Vettel's departure from Red Bull, even Lewis Hamilton's shocking switch to Ferrari for 2026. Loyalty has limits, and performance is the ultimate currency. Verstappen has already proven everything he needs to in F1.